And welcome to Sonic Talk number 342, just about. Sorry about that. My laptop's back in service, but it did mean that I had to make a few adjustments to a lot of other bits and bobs, so thanks for hanging in there. But anyway, hello and welcome. Running up to Christmas now, the Sonic Talk number 342. Welcome to the chat room, sonicstate.com/live, 4 p.m. UK time. There'll be another show before Christmas, I think, just about. But apart from all of that, let's get on to some guests. We've got a very perpendicular-looking guest over here in number 3. That'd be Gaz Williams, who's in a skyscraper mode. I've not seen you like that before, Gaz. Have you got a new stand, or are you in have you changed orientation since last week?
I'm much more upright. Yes. I'm in portrait mode. Is it better to go landscape, do you think?
Well, you get more of you. But yeah, however. Gaz Williams, of course, professional bass player, music technologist, amongst other things. Putting my technology skills to shame today. Everything seems to be falling apart. But we're all back together again. So, Gaz Williams, thank you very much for joining us. Mark Tinley, you're on fire, man. What's going on?
I am on fire, man. I'm smoking.
Smoking?
No, not smoking cigarettes. I had considered starting smoking, though, because I'm so bloody miserable at the moment. I think it's this Christmas thing. I really am Mr. Bar Humbug. But I did write a very nice song about it at sometimessuicide.com, which if you buy, I will give all the money away to anybody who deserves it, randomly.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Mark. But I'm a bit concerned about that smoke. What is it? Is it like a screensaver, or is it some sort of Chag Nampa or something like that?
It's frankincense.
Ah, how very Christmassy. Frankincense. All you need is the gold and the myrrh now.
Ward off evil spirits.
Absolutely.
I went busking on Glastonbury High Street on Sunday.
All right.
And I made £3.75.
Nice.
Although I might have to admit that I got paid £1 for playing Ordinary World, which I thought was interesting. That was the most money anyone put in, but I think she only really came over to stroke the dog. And I have to admit that some of the money came from East, so I got a starter fund from my family. But I quite enjoyed it. I might go back and do it again. In practice, actually.
Excellent. Well, happy busking. If you see Mark on the streets, then give him some money. And we'll go to Mr. Dave Spears over there in his synth cave. Hello, Dave. Dave in your synth cave. Oh, don't do that to me. I can tell you're... I can tell you... Anyway, Dave Spears, G4 software makers of fine musical instruments. How are things, Mr. Dave?
Breakers of fine musical instruments this week.
Oh dear. What have you
That's right. I picked the 80 up. I don't know whether you can see it.
Hold on. Is there a way I can get that to work? I think actually I've got to get rid of that. CS80.
Makes a nice noise.
Yeah, does it ever?
Kent did an amazing job. But there's a couple of little teething things that I've got to sort out. Right.
Well, I'm glad to see you reunited with the CS80. In fact, that might tie in with our first topic when it finally gets round to being actually happening. Well, now we can try Mr. Robert Bronneman in Robot Studios.
Well, that's the only person who ever calls me Robert's my mum when she's annoyed with me.
Well, I'm not annoyed with you. You are very quiet, though. I might be able to fix that. It might be me. So what have you been up to, Robbie, while I do this?
Oh, I've been, in the sort of aftermath of the gigs last week, I've just been cracking back in with some other projects that I've had ongoing. Projects I'm working on for this American artist, and an album project that I've been working on for a year now with this girl. Just been finishing the last track for that, which is actually a cover of Duran Duran's Say a Prayer.
Wow, how very
haunting kind of sort of. Yeah.
Jolly good.
Yeah, really pleased with it. It sounds really great. So, yeah.
Glad to hear it. Well, Robbie, of course, I did do an intro earlier, but his audio wasn't working, but now it is. And have we done you, Gaz? I've got to come back to you. Gaz Williams, music technologist, bass player. Yes, I have, haven't you? Gaz, you're now,
yes.
Your orientation is now more mainstream, shall we say? There's so many gags that we could pull there, but I don't think we
Yeah.
will. In the meantime, let's that CS80 thing that we mentioned. Let's see if we can link that up with our first topic, and that is this. This is Vangelis in front of his system. He's about to improvise some sort of massive orchestral piece, as is his wont. I don't know whether the stories are true, but apparently he did improvise Chariots of Fire, basically. So these, I don't know what these are, but look, that motorized patch thing. So then we'll get on. Well, let's get on a little bit until he starts, when he starts playing, and then you can sort of see what he's doing. And it's pretty. Yeah, we've got the. Here we go. He's playing his oboe, as you do. That was Mr. Vangelis on his sort of improvising on his system. I don't know, Dave, you spotted this, and this was on Synthtopia not long ago, was it? And there seems to be some question as to what it is he's using there. Those kind of patch changes and all of that kind of... Essentially, he's improvising the entire piece there, orchestral. It's very pompous and sort of, Vangelis-like, but... he's using foot switches to sort of bring in these various orchestral layers, but there's been a lot of speculation as to what on earth that stuff is that he's using. Do you know? It's called Yes Audio, but it's custom made for him. But is it based on anything that you know about?
No, but I know that behind a load of that is a rack with S760s, 750s, even JV 1080s and stuff like that was on.
No way, man.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is.
I just thought it was really funny because we talked about workstations and we were all a bit anti-workstation, and then I looked at that and went, now that is a workstation.
Yeah.
That's
so
certainly.
I'm glad Robbie's on this week because.
Well, Robbie, of course, you have quite a lot of. Well, I wouldn't say you have quite the equivalent, but it's not far off when you're certainly doing the live thing. Have you ever tried that sort of large improvisational sort of fading stuff in and out? I mean, it's a very interesting way of working. It looks quite interesting, but I don't, it's again, everybody's speculating as to what on earth is going on, but there must be other people who, I mean, I can imagine, you set your whole orchestra up and you just sit there and you play and it just comes out. It's like, there you go, there's a film, thank you, that'll be 40 grand, please, 10-minute real-time improvisation. I like the sound of that, don't you?
Well, I actually watched that documentary last night because I ordered it as soon as I saw it online. So that turned up from Amazon yesterday, and I watched it all. And it's a brilliant documentary, really interesting, all about all sorts of things you don't know about him. But yeah, for me, it's like Dave says. I did a bit of background onto it, and it is pretty much old school. Even some Akai X8s and stuff like that, driving all that, and M1. There's an M1 in there, and some other stuff like that. But it's kind of the whole the thing that's so kind of appealing about it is the fact that he can just sit there and in real time just do that without any nonsense and without having to work out 8 different articulations of a string patch and all that sort of thing. That's the kind of exciting thing about it.
It is pretty impressive, isn't it? I mean, and when I was looking at his fingers, and they just look like they're just sort of faffing about. He's not like working. He's got such a brilliantly set up that he's not making it any harder than it needs to be, and that's the thing that's quite.
I don't know though. When you look at how much work his feet are doing.
Oh yeah, well there's that, yeah.
And that looks really complex. He's got what, maybe 12 expression pedals or something. I'm not sure. Which presumably he's controlling all the levels of things. Those foot pedals are just controlling the levels. Do you think?
I suspect so, because he's bringing in kind of percussion and strings and swapping strings and brass and those little plinky plonk. Because he's not changing keyboards, he's changing patches a little bit, but.
So am I right in thinking then there's no computers involved and no VSTs and everything is just coming from racks and those weird patch changey things are somehow some big MIDI patch changes. Is that right?
I think that's the general idea. And even that is custom. All I know is it's custom built hardware for built by Yes Audio. Now, if you do a search for Yes Audio online, you end up with a PA company. So I don't know who they are or whether it's called MTM8. And it just says custom design for Vangelis. There's a couple of pictures on the place, but there's no point in me showing you because I've got no access to any of my spunning, so it's going to be talking heads today. But what's quite interesting about that is obviously it's been custom designed, but those with the little sort of scribble strips that motorized, so banking switch. I mean, it's just that level of detail is just a bit insane, really, right?
What are those scribbles then? Those like weirdy little.
Yeah, they're just scribble strips, but they represent banking.
They to different sounds, don't they?
Yeah.
I think that's all his symbols for different parts of the orchestra.
Yeah, it looks nice. I don't know, Mark, what do you think? Fancy one of those?
I didn't like his shoes.
Well, and one would not ordinarily.
But I did like everything else. Mind blowing. I mean, I remember many years ago there was a sound engineer on a Duran Duran tour who told me quite equivocally that I was an underachiever, and I remember sort of thinking, "Oh, bugger off! I know, I've got loads of work to do, and this is all really hard, and blah 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 blah." But there's something about the way he's playing that makes what the whole thing seem like it's not that much of a stretch beyond the playing. In other words, I don't think he played anything that I probably wouldn't be able to play on a MIDI guitar, but it never entered my mind that if I had like 100 synths connected to a MIDI guitar and I just switched them all on and off or turned the volumes all up and down, that I could probably do something similar. But it's like that sort of, all his years of experience have kind of ended up in this huge kind of thing. I mean, it's just totally mind blowing. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And yes, 10 minutes of work for 40,000. Whatever it is,
I'm sure it's not quite like that. I mean, you notice he loathes computers, apparently, according to the chat room. He's really, just anti them completely. And there are some shots of his last big gig.
I noticed a radar in the background.
Yeah,
with all the
he records to it's not isotope, it's isotope, not isotope, isn't it? The radar system, and it's in a box. They're supposed to. The thing about the radar systems, I know Adrian Utley from Portishead swears by them. They record all their stuff onto those, and it's like a kind of 24 or 48 track, depending on what model you've got, system that allows you just to kind of record and do basic edits. You can transfer the stuff. But it's basic. But that same system I noticed he also had when he was playing live. So he had, I don't know if it was the entire thing, but he had those banks of those kind of MIDI switches and all that sort of stuff. It's it does look very old.
And he grabbed faders as well, didn't he? Because he went for the mixing desk.
He touched the mixing desk too.
Yeah. I was like, wow.
Real tight, old school, man. I don't know, it's pretty impressive. But there's all sorts of stories about him improvising at least the sort of main themes and stuff to some of the big films that he's done, and just sort of throwing it down, and then obviously goes back and adds the 9 seconds of reverb and all the tinkly bits and the other stuff. But when I was working at a club which had a studio above it, there was an engineer in there working with a band, I think were called the Milltown Boys, a very long time ago, and she was called Raina Shine, and she was Vangelis' engineer for quite a long time. And she said he just had a Rev 1, which is a big Yamaha digital reverb system with a big sort of remote control, a bit like the kind of Lexicon system. And it was just the same set with 9 seconds on everything all the time. And that was kind of part of the sound of it. And, his stuff is all dripping in reverb. I guess it's the right kind of stuff. But it's very interesting, isn't it, that he can pull that stuff off.
But if he finds a sound and he likes it, then that just ends up in the mix, so to speak, doesn't it? I mean, it's, we all kind of crave after the next best thing, and we'll get one of these and we'll get one of those. It's beyond my comprehension that I would buy a synth for $2,000 and sit it on one patch and that would be it, and that would be its job for the rest of its life. All my things have to do multiple things, and they have to do You know, I'll give up a sound if it means selling that synth to buy another one to make
Two
space
sounds.
to have something that will do more things. Yes, exactly.
That's an interesting idea. I don't know, Robbie. Have you got any of that sort of single synth functionality going on, or do you try and broaden the use out of them, because you've got a lot of stuff there?
Yeah, but there are certain things I always come back to do certain jobs. I absolutely love the Dave Smith Mono Evolver keyboard. I always come back to it for the same sort of gritty type of sounds, and I could probably get loads of other stuff out of it. But I just, I always go to it knowing that I can do that and move on to something else to do something else. So yeah, I don't have the luxury of having thousands of keyboards, but I do like to kind of feel like I've spread it around so that I've got a good selection of things each with their own character.
Yeah, I suppose otherwise you just end up with a rack of all the same things, all with an individual patch. I know, Dave, you are a synth collector. I mean, before you got into sort of fully analog, I mean, you had the JV1080 and the JD800 and what have you. I mean, did you find that you were reaching for things that before we got in the box, that were just a single source of, that was the sound it always made, kind of thing, or that group of sounds?
All of this only makes one sound. It's just a really big sound. It's like Robbie said, his character. Each good instrument will have its own character, and there are certain things that you can just get really easily out of certain things that you'd have to work hard on another instrument to get. So they've each got their own little vibe. I remember the JD800. It was like, what was that? There was a couple of patches on there that were just brilliant, but only for its type. I'll tell you, one was the piano. The piano was just so cutting and so bright, fantastic gig-wise, because it would just pierce through everything. But you've only got to hear that on 3 or 4 records, and it's like, okay, so that's so recognisable, it's done now. It's a bit like the M1 thing, wasn't it? Really?
Wasn't there like a log drum sound on it as well that everyone used?
Oh, what, on the JD? On the M1 for sure, or the DX?
No, on the JD800.
Oh, I don't know.
Kind of a donk, and it had like a diddly after it.
Patches I have loved.
Might be the D50.
Maybe we should start a series of T-shirts with just the name of specific patches on. That would be kind of...
Yeah.
Or even better, or even more nerdy, just the number.
No, that's getting into kind of really obscure Christmas presents there. I like the sound of that.
People coming up going, yes, native digital dance. Yes.
Oh, yes, I remember that one. Yes, M1 piano number 09.
Was there Ski Jam on the Wave Station?
Yeah,
Is it Ski Jam? Yeah, that was a real jaw dropper. That was when we first did that one.
The one noter.
And what was it on the K2000? Was it First World Order or Third World Order? I can never remember. It must be First World Order, surely. That was a good patch.
Well, there we go. There's another one. Anyway, Vangelis, if you want to know what it is that he's using, or you find out, do let us know, because I'm really fascinated by this. Dave, you found this drum machine extravaganza, which is Joe Mansfield drum machines. It's a book you could buy on Get On Down, $49.95. I think we might have talked about it before. It's like a coffee table book. It's about sort of one man's obsession with drum machines. Beatbox collector. He's got 150 drum machines, but he still can't get the compy rhythm, and it's really obviously causing him. Do you think this whole thing's just a kind of elaborate plan to get someone to sell him a compy rhythm?
Probably. Could be.
$10,000, didn't he say that the going rate is for one of those?
Really? Well, nah. See us, really?
I read his article about it, and he said that the going rate, because there was only 25 of them made or some ridiculous thing.
That's just not true, though, is it? I mean, it just isn't true. Because I know of people who I know of at least 2 in this area.
Wow.
That's what he said. So unless it's another compy rhythm we don't know about.
Oh, I don't know. We got Synth CR78 in the chat room. He'd probably know, because that's his handle. But yeah, I mean, of course, Dave, famous CR78 tracks. It's got to be Phil Collins in the Air Tonight, a few others.
Yeah, Heart of Glass.
Heart of Glass.
Heart of Glass live. In fact, I persuaded the band to start the set on one occasion with Heart of Glass, just the CR78 ticking away. And it was brilliant, because as soon as the crowd heard it, even though the lights were still up, lights go down, CR78 on, and everyone goes mental.
Did you actually use a CR78, or was it a loop?
No, I sampled it.
Doesn't sound the same, though, right?
Do you know what? It worked brilliantly. It really did. I think she had about 4 or 5 tracks that were all CR78 kind of based. But yeah, brilliant. What an amazing. Love that machine. But I haven't got a Bee Gees Rhythm Ace, a rhythm machine, which is what I want.
I think Will's got one of those. I think I've
I
seen
nearly
one
had
of
the
those on
chance to
eBay.
get one.
Was there?
There was one of those on
Yeah.
eBay not that long ago.
Oh my lord!
I'm sure that Girls on Film is a CR78. I might be wrong.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah, it could be.
Boop, 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 boop. Or it might be Rio. I'll get all the words, names muddled up.
Oh, it doesn't matter as long as you can throw a few in there for SEO.
A Duran Duran song.
Robbie, drum machines I have loved. You're not a drum machine person now, but are you?
I've got a Tempest, so you know I do.
I do like the Tempest. Do you find you're reaching for it and doing what it's supposed to do with it, or are you just like to have the lights go on?
No, I do. Again, it's one of those things. I didn't really have drum machines back in the day. The first drum thing I ever had was a Roland R8M, which was the rack module.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And with because it had an 808 card and a 909, and when I was sort of getting into stuff, that was very exciting. Yeah, I mean, I've got a machine as well, but again, I tend to use it for certain sounds and stuff, and the control aspects. I'm not really one for working on a kind of drum machine pattern kind of way.
No, really. I must admit I'm the same. And although the Tempest, when I did the review, it has a really nice feel. I mean, even though it wasn't doing 6s and 8s when I reviewed it. I think it does all of that now, and it's got the MPC swing and the MPC groove, and it seems to absolutely lock, and you can get that kind of really just very specific sounds. It's obviously got the Roger Lynn aspect to it. And you can sync that up. But it's a very powerful synthesizer in its own right, I remember as well.
Yeah, no, I'm considering taking it out because you can use it as a six note polyphonic analog now.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that's a great little compact little unit to be able to take out to have a proper analog on the road.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually, and also it'll do the bass drum. Because you can make it, you can split it up so it could be a 5 and a 1, can't you? You've got all that voice assignment thing, which seems to be all the rage these days. So I'm told.
It's interesting. We were up at Benji's the other day, and you know he takes the SDS5 out, or he did. He's now replaced that with a little Nord, which actually sounds really cool.
Oh, really? What, the Nord Drum 2?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but it's a little kind of box thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not. I think I reviewed that, and it is a great. It does sound really good, but it's just got a mono output, and you can't pan the voices, and that is kind of a drag when you're dealing with massive analog doof as well as kind of hi-hat sizzle. You just can't.
No, Nick, there's a Mark II now. It's got stereo output.
Whoopee.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Be thankful for small mercies.
Yeah, but it did sound really nice. And the thing about the Nord Drum, you can trigger it from almost anything. I think you can probably trigger it from the Simmons pads as well. Is he still using the Simmons pads to trigger it, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the job. Very nice. It takes a variety of different pads and input. Gaz, is there drum machines you have loved? Is there a moment you would care to share with us?
I get really sad when I think about my 626 that was the first drum machine I had way back in the 80s, and I loved it so much, and I sold it for 40 quid, and it's just one of those, because I know those things are quite limited in a way, the 626s, but they're just so lovely to work with. And I used to make really complicated music on it because of the way you could chain the patterns together. And it was so quick and so fun to use. I have no idea why I sold it. And it's one of them.
Can you not get a new one? Oh, they go for a lot now, do they?
Well, I mean, they don't get to silly money, but they're a 500 quid job now, aren't they? Yeah.
Why?
Really?
Or maybe they're not.
Yeah, they are.
I don't think they are.
I would get one of them again, though, partly to, relive my youth a little bit, because I spent a lot of time with that thing.
Yeah, and, mine was a Korg DR10, or I can't remember, DDM 110. I've forgotten. God, I can't even remember.
110. Oh, they were horrible.
Yeah, they were. Oh, what's that then?
I loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
A Bentley Rhythm Ace. Oh no, Wurlitzer.
Wow.
Yeah, but look at the rhythm it's got on it. It's called Teen.
Teen. What's that? What does that do? Is that
I don't know actually.
You've never experienced the teen rhythm.
I can't remember. The
That-
best
that-
drum machine we've got is one that takes 8-track cartridges, and on the picture of the 8-track cartridges, they've always got pictures of sort of sexy 70s ladies. And in fact, if you look at a Vangelis picture of Nemo Studios in the grand piano, now this is super nerdy, in the grand piano picture, sort of tucked away in the grand piano, is one of these cartridges. And no one else would ever know that except us.
Wow, that is obscure, isn't it?
We're looking at it going, oh, CS, what is it, 770, listing all the synths. And then I went, check out what's in the piano. But it was it was made in Scotland and distributed by the Mellotron people.
Right. Anything tape? You do tapes, right? You distribute that. As the
Yeah, exactly.
With the tape specialist, they know how to store them properly. I'll tell you what I've got. Yes, there we are. I've got the Korg Little Bits.
You haven't made the keytar yet, then I thought you could be sporting that.
You know what? One thing I will say about it is it's a bit temperamental. You've got to kind of get it. I've got it plugged in over here, but I didn't get time to set up a camera. But what's really nice about it is you could just sort of go, right, you go, keyboard, oscillator, filter, delay, or you can just go, hold on a minute, I'm going to put something up there, then put the oscillator up here, then bring the oscillator, you can just very quickly change the routing modules. It's quite an interesting idea, actually. But I think it's been missing stuff, because I'm supposed to be able to build this thing, like this box, but I don't think I've got all those bits to make that box with the sort of, so you can set the, have the bit on the top and the bit on the bottom. I can't do that, and I feel a bit cheated.
Oh, there's various versions, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you're going to put that on the box, anyway, I don't know. This may be they were Korg. They only got 2 sets, and they sent one of them to me to review, so I can't complain too much. I mean, that's pretty cool. But it's like a super monotron. It's all of them basically, because you get 2 oscillators, but one of them's an LFO. But then you've got a little sequencer, and you've got the delay and stuff, and it's not. And the speaker's really loud for the size. Look.
I did get to hear one in a studio that Gaz was at, actually, but I took a picture and I was asked not to put it online.
Oh, really? Are we about to have a story, Gaz?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Right, fair enough. But anyway, yes, so that's the drum. You can get that from getondown.com. It's a beatbox. And I think they said they were ordering them from the beginning of November, or it was the end of November, so now anyway, $49.95, sort of coffee table book, and it comes with various different sort of bits of cassettes and tapes and stuff, so you can hear these things. So if you're into that, it might make a Christmas present for, I don't know, maybe one of the listeners of this show, if anyone's interested in that kind of thing. So yes, enjoy. Once again, apologies that I haven't got anything to show you, but I've got one of my video outputs is not working, and I had to redo it. It means just a complete rebuild of the system. So I'm afraid I'm not going to do that. Oh, yes. Juno 106 supercharged CPU. This is Kiwi Tech Juno 106. This is a really interesting idea, actually, taking an existing synthesizer and putting a new CPU in it, so it just adds all this extra power. And obviously the Juno is DCO, so there's a lot of digital control going on there, because it had MIDI. Juno 106 is obviously a legendary synth. It's great sounding synth. I've got one. Unfortunately, the voice card has gone, or at least one of them, so I'm not going to be doing anything with that for the time being. But if you add this extra CPU board, it gives you extra LFOs, 2 extra LFOs, I believe, extra envelope, chord sequencer, a sequencer, arpeggiator, all this additional sort of functions. And I just thought, what a brilliant idea. Dave, you got a Juno 106? I didn't see one in your place. Have you got one in storage somewhere?
No.
Oh.
No Juno 106, no 60, no Poly 6. They do a Poly 6 thing as well, upgrade. And by all accounts, it's brilliant. I think this is awesome, actually.
What does it do for the 106? What does it do for the 60? Sorry, the Poly 6, rather.
Hang on.
Right, you got it.
I've got it in front of me.
There's a man who does some research, unlike me, who did, but can't show you any of it.
Oh, God, this is a long list. Arpeggiator, clockable, art modes, up, down, random, key transpose, all sorts of stuff. MIDI, arpeggiator will output MIDI clock.
Oh, nice.
And there's a guy who, in fact, the guy that we got the Wurlitzer stuff from, great guy, Maychek in Poland. I think he's called analogica.pl. but he fits them and then sells them.
Ah, but is he the one who does the 106 voice cards as well?
I think he might actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
Redwalks is asking in the chat room, how does it edit? Well, in fact, you get this additional layer of functionality, so it does double up. So you press a button on the... You don't actually add any more hardware on the panel, but you just sort of pop the... you press a function, and then you've got sort of 3 layers, and there's an over... And I think they're going to be making an editor for it as well sometime in the future. I mean, I did use my 106 a lot of time, but yeah, I don't know how much the voice cards are. They've got to be £100 plus, I'd imagine. But it's great. I was just wondering if there was any other... ideas for other synths that could do with a CPU upgrade, and what you could, because it seems like there'd be quite a good market for supercharging this kind of stuff.
My friend's had his Juno. He's got a new chip in his Juno 60, I think it is, and it gives him an extra LFO. It gives him MIDI, and that's quite. I don't know if it's by the same guys. Maybe it is.
I don't know. Yeah.
But it's made the synth just so much better in so many ways. Oh, little correction, by the way. When I was talking about drum machines, I realised it was a 606, not a 626.
Oh,
606, that's a bit more.
Yeah.
I'd say as
Yes.
long as these upgrades don't give any auto accompaniment, then I'm happy about it.
Well, actually, Robbie, now thinking about this, you could actually do the HS 106, which had speakers on it. You could get the Juno 106 upgrade to that, and that would really, that would cause you problems, I'm sure.
And even better, the HS60. Remember, that's the sort of wooden-looking home keyboardy style thing.
Was that
which go for really cheap?
Is that
was the kind of?
Is that a 106?
Yeah.
Ah, that's what I meant. Yeah. So you could upgrade
yeah.
that. That's an interesting idea.
We had Unison put on this 80. Oh my word! It's whopping. Massive. But it's like a cascade. So if you play one note, all the voices. If you play 2, it divides it down.
Right.
3, 4, so on.
Oh, that's very similar to the Waldorf Pulse 2. That's got unison poly mode, so it just divides them down. Although if you play 3, not sure what happens there. What happens if you play 3, Dave? Who gets the odd number of oscillators? I mean, that's...
So there's normal. Hang on, let's get it normal. Normal. Unison. Whopping.
Lovely. That does sound very nice. You have my envy.
It's a bit over the top.
Yeah. I know, Mark. What about you? Can you think of any? Is there anything that you'd like to see with because you're a circuit bender, as it were? What about a new CPU? What about a new CPU? Because you can get one for the Jupiter 6, actually.
I don't know. It just seems like a really good idea. It seems like we've left lots of this hardware behind. What needs to happen is for Roland to go, it's been 25 years since we made that piece of equipment. Let's open source the whole damn thing so that anybody can poke around in it. And then we can kind of make hybrid things out of all the broken ones. How about that? We get Juno 106 cards and put them in JX8Ps and then glue in 303s and stick TR606 in the middle of it as well.
That's a great idea. I mean,
because somebody must know what the programming is to be able to add LFOs and all that sort of stuff. There must be.
I imagine that it's got to be a pretty arcane skill if you're talking about sort of machine compiling for a Juno 106, which is what? That's 19. What's the what?
Little EEPROMs.
What year is that, Dave? 1980 something.
86, I would have thought.
Right, so 86. That's got to be, that's got to be kind of ones and zeros almost, doesn't it? Or hex or something. Not the sort of thing that.
I mean, for those 303s that are are they called XOX boxes or something? I might have that wrong, but there's EEPROMs for them, and then there's kind of like ramped up programming for them, isn't there? So you can blow an EEPROM that has some additional kind of functionality. So the code must be out there somewhere, and somebody must be able to understand it or decompile it and stuff. And then,
well, it's got to be. I suppose in some respects, it's got to be just I mean, the way that people can do Arduino and all that stuff. It's not got to be all that. Is there a mod to turn your your Juno 106 into a Jupiter 8? Says as you're head in the chat room. That would be an interesting concept. Need a few oscillators for that.
6.
Sorry.
6 has got the Europa. The Jupiter 6 has got the Europa upgrade, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've got a Kenton upgrade for it. which is I haven't put the chip in. I found it the other day in a jiffy bag.
What does that do?
Channelize the MIDI, add velocity, program changes. Pass. It's been such a long time since Kenton kindly sent me that. I can't honestly remember.
I think Howard's Jupiter 8's got some sort of Europa customized thing in it. It does MIDI, but it does add a few extra little bits and bobs as well.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what. Yeah, I mean, but I suppose the thing about those is they're not so digitally focused, are they? So that you can't. And the point about having the digital control is you can go crazy if you put another CPU in it, but without adding actual additional electronics.
For something like a Roland S770, which sounds absolutely brilliant, and it's all digital filters, but as soon as you start playing more than a few notes, the whole thing goes out of time, and it has like horrendous timing errors.
Oh, so
to upgrade something like that, which is probably running on a really basic processor, to put something much faster in that would be a good thing to do. Because if you could bring that piece of equipment back to life, it's got musical sounding filters, and it's got that kind of Roland sound that without being overly complicated with all the other crap all the other addition. It doesn't need all that multi-effect stuff in it. The S770 just has the filters, and they work really well, and you can kind of you can filter very high quality samples.
Yeah, I remember I had a one U rack sampler, which I can't
760 then, yeah.
Might have been a 760, yeah. And what I do remember about it was the envelopes were really, really snappy, so you could get amazing filter stuff going on it. A real sort of, but yeah, I wonder.
Masses of bottom end, especially compared to an S1000, which was really light on bottom end.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the samplers have been somewhat sort of sidelined since everybody just does it in the computer, really, don't they? Because it's just probably so much easier to code for that kind of stuff. But it'd be good to see some CPU upgrades. But I'm imagining the investment that goes into it. I don't know how many of those samplers are still alive, because they had a disk drive for starters, and they would have had really sort of scuzzy one, which you need all sorts of translation to get it over that way. Working.
Yeah, SideQuest 44 megabyte platter.
That kind of thing.
770 had a CPU upgrade anyway, because I used to have a 770 and the SP700 playback one, and I think I remember trooping up to Psycho in London or something, and they already fitted a CPU upgrade, because like Mark said, the timing was atrocious on the original, and the CPU upgrade actually made the timing better, but it could still be better.
It's an improvement.
But it wasn't the CPU 25 megahertz, and then you might be. I think what you're talking about is maybe a 33 megahertz upgrade or something.
Wow!
You could play 4 notes without it going out of time then, instead of 2.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, I remember having hi-hats on mine coming out a separate output, and then soloing it on a big desk and going, "What the hell's that? It doesn't. That's not playing the right thing."
There's a track running from somewhere else into my mixing desk.
And it was meant to be like 16s, and it was doing this completely random thing.
Actually, now you come to mention it, I remember that, because I always used the S1000 for sampling loops, and the S760 for short hits, because if you did a loop, the timing would be out, and also they had hardly any memory, didn't they? They would only do they had really convoluted banks and really complicated way. You had 7 seconds per bank. But you had the audio pool, so you could define tones that just addressed part of that memory. So you could have loads and loads of tones, and they could all address the same sample, but in different ways. It's really, God.
We had a mouth and a screen. That was the thing.
Yeah, made you feel really. It was like a poor man's Fairlight. Yeah.
It's the future.
It's the future of the past.
I borrowed a screen from someone, and by the time I gave it back to them, it was absolutely indelibly burned into the inside of the screen. So when you turned it off, all the
yes, I remember that, because they were green, weren't they? The screens on them, and they were a CRT with a green. They had a very specific requirement, because it was quite hard to find a screen that would work on it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. The good old bad old days. Right, well, so my next topic really kind of does require a picture, and I haven't got one. So maybe we'll just have a sort of short show this week because and I'll make sure I'm a bit more on the case next week. I think what happened was we did a shoot. We had actually a chap in a couple of days ago who was called Second Story, Alex Story. He's like a Bristol-based Ableton artist. I mean, he was playing some really interesting music. He came in and showed us what he did and how he used it. And we had to pull one of the drives out to take back to sync up all the cameras. And when the drive came out, all the connections got a bit knocked, and I only noticed that when I was checking the connections to see why Robbie wasn't getting any audio, which is rather too late in the day to discover that. And so that's hence I've been limping on with only the 4 cameras. So I'm sorry, I do apologise for that. Anyone else got anything to add or anything they'd care to go? I know, Robbie, you've got to head off. So are you going to be around next week, or are you kind of what's happening?
Yeah.
Are you weighing through your massive stuff to be done before Christmas list?
Yeah, I've got this like psychological list of stuff that's got to be finished by Christmas so I can enjoy it. So yeah, I'll be in the studio night and day for the next 10 days probably.
Oh, well, I hope you enjoy that. How about you, Gaz? What you got lined up over the next week? Anything exciting?
Got a few gigs with my surf band, the Rumbelows, which will be fun. Getting a new bass tomorrow, which I'm excited about. It's a stunt bass.
Stunt bass.
Yeah. Well, it is actually a stunted bass as well because it's a short scale bass. But it's for shredding reams and reams of useless bibble, which just pointless music, super fast bass. No one wants to listen to.
So you just play really fast.
Yeah.
Oh, when you said stunt bass, I thought maybe it had like a hinge in the middle of the neck or something, and that would be really thrilling.
Well, it's kind of stunts in that you can just do loads of two-handed tapping and all sorts of nonsense, horrible nonsense. But quite excited about it.
Actually, Mark has just reminded me by thrusting a picture of this up to the screen about the Guitorgan. Wow, yes, that was something. I have a video for that, but unfortunately you won't be able to see it.
Well,
I can
really
play
nice
it.
Things about this guitar,
You can hear this.
Use it, and 99% of the time is this little magic button on the pick guard.
This is
right
the
up here.
Guitorgan from
I don't know if you can see it too well.
Musiconics,
I can turn it on the light just right,
who are from Waco, Texas.
but it's right here.
And he actually says in this video it's
When the
somewhat of a
switch is in the
cult
down position,
instrument, which I think is a little
like
unfortunate.
This is another switch right here in the down position.
Right, ready? This is how you use the Guitorgan.
It plays every time you touch the strings. Like that. With the switch in the up position, the little button on the pick guard that I call the power button activates the organ. And it's kind of nice if you play things like "Over to the party at the county jail, as the man was there, they begin to wail. The band began to jump and the band began to swing. Should have heard the knocked out jailbird singing, let's rock, and everybody let's rock. Jailhouse rock. And let me go up one key.
No, sorry, you can't. That was a chap called Roger Bretonitz who sold his on eBay. They go for about 500, 600, 700 quid or dollars. Mark, you brought this up because you were interested. I know I was in the process of saying goodbye, but this you did remind me, so I'm terribly sorry if you've got to shoot off. I know Robbie.
I thought that might be the picture that you weren't able to show, so I thought I would improvise.
Okay,
put it
well
on
that's
my
good.
laptop, my iPad. I did bring. I'm building a guitar. Well, Jez Woodruff, the man who sold Nick Rhodes his very first Jupiter 8, is building me a guitar. The keyboard player from Black Sabbath. Did you know they had a keyboard player?
No.
Apparently, he used to hide in the wings at the side of the stage and
With his
he's
Guitorgan.
written lots of music.
I'm not
written lots of
surprised.
music with lots of people. But anyway, I'm building a 339 Gibson-bodied Stratocaster, just to completely confuse you. So I think it's called a 9-caster. So I was looking for inspiration on what hardware to put on it and what the tailpiece should look like and all that sort of stuff. And I accidentally came across this while searching for images of Gibson semi-acoustics. And then I was just completely mind-boggled by the fact that the frets are split into 6 little tiny sections with resistive material in between each fret.
Yeah, there's basically
So
an
the
organ
wiring
inside the
underneath
guitar.
fretboard. Well, the wiring under the fretboard must be mental, but it also looks like somebody's taken the bottom off a 19-inch rack and just kind of screwed it to the back of the guitar. So it's just full of stuff, isn't it? And I want one. Now I've seen it. It's like I've got to have one of those.
Well,
if they're only $500, then
I think they're a bit more expensive than that. But yeah, kind of a funky thing. I'm guessing, Gaz, this is the sort of instrument that might appeal to you for some. I could see that working for Rocket Gold Star, a bit of kind of psychedelic prog kind of guitar organ stuff.
Which I use my MIDI bass to achieve that sort of thing. So yes, so it is the kind of thing that we do, and that's what I want to do with my stunt bass. Actually, I want to put piccolo strings on there and chuck a GK pickup on it. So the so piccolo strings are like an octave above a normal set of strings on a bass. But yeah, I love doing that, and I love having an organ, but just having it on one string. It's really nice. That's this nice thing with a GR55. You can have two different PCM sample sounds, but on two different strings. So I have like an organ on the D string, and then on the G I put like a string sound or something, and then you can. It's so cool. It's so cool being able.
Depending on your playing technique, you can bring it in or out.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Robbie,
Yeah.
I saw you just laughing during that, and you weren't even watching the video. That was just from the sound. I'm guessing. Yeah. Would you have one of those in your studio? You have no idea. It could do something amazing.
It reminds me. I saw a video about 4 years ago from one of those weird little rooms at NAMM, and this guy had this thing he'd called the keytar.
Ah, yes.
I mean, but it just reminded me of that. It was like a sort of guitar bolted onto a keyboard on it. But I know it's just funny because the sound of it he wasn't selling it very well to me.
It did sell on eBay apparently. And Dave, I noticed that you just turned around and started playing your CS80. I mean, understandably so.
The interesting thing about that instrument is it's a really hard instrument to learn, but it's a harder instrument to bloody listen to.
Yes. It does come with it's got a load of so you got the voicing switches, but it's also got a foot switch, so I'm guessing you can bring it in and underneath and stuff. And I think I have seen one. I think somewhere.
Come on. I mean, if you were playing Smoke on the Water on it, you'd get somewhere close to like that Hammond plus kind of Strat sound, surely. He's playing the wrong thing on it.
No, it doesn't sound like, it's not a Hammond sound. It's more of a what's that other type of organ that's Vox.
Lowry.
It's like a Vox kind of sound.
Farfeether, yeah.
Farfeether VL tone. Rubbish, I think, is what you're trying to say there, Robbie, isn't it?
Bon Tempi Beelzebub.
Sorry,
it can be MIDI'd as well, I think, because it's got all the switches in place. So there are some MIDI ones kicking around as well.
Well, I detect maybe a collection coming on, Mark. You could, next time we see you, maybe we'll see behind you on the wall that a whole series. There are several sorts. I thought I saw a 300, a 200, a 400 list. You could have them all just hanging up there on the wall, kind of,
Gina's going to kill me, isn't she?
Well, yeah.
I've already got a house full of guitar parts from the two guitars that I'm making. Jerry cans and guitar necks and bodies and pickups and things everywhere. So. Yeah, I think I'll have to wait till we move to a bigger house.
Okay. Well, anyway, now we can go. Now you can all go. You're released from this technical hell that was the Sonic Talk podcast. I do appreciate you hanging in there, and I'm sorry for the initial tech things. We'll get that sorted out for next week, and everything will be back to. We're getting some good ones in the chat.
How many more have we got before Christmas?
A Fenfisa or a Lowry hardtop. Before Christmas, I think. What's next week? Next week is going to the last one will be
18.
Is it? Yeah, next week will be the last one.
Isn't there one on
Live
Christmas Day?
We're not having one. No, I'm not doing one on Christmas Day. Although I'm sure everybody would love to.
Can we have some live music? Can we have a Christmas party and live music on the show next week?
I don't know. Possibly. It might be possible. I'd see how many other things I've got to cram into the week. But
let's see if we can get some live video.
Yeah, how about that? I'll aim for some live video first, and then if I can get that working. Oh, you swine. Okay, well, anyway, I do appreciate everybody for hanging in there, and I want to say thank you very much to our listeners. If you're not going to make it next week, then happy Christmas to you, and of course, we'll be ramping up for NAMM, and maybe next week we can talk about Christmas gifts, and we'll finally get the giant ear iPhone case in the show, which I know Robbie's been looking forward to. It's the only reason he's on. And I'm afraid I skipped the topic. So anyway, thank you very much. And we'll say goodbye, Dave, back there with your CS80. And I'm sure you're going to have endless fun into the night.
Well, I've got to open it up.
Oh,
Do you want
really?
to see this? Do you want to see this?
Yeah, you might have to tilt.
Oh, God, I just gave myself a hernia.
Yeah. Careful it doesn't shut down on your finger. Bloody hell. That looks like the inside.
Miles.
That is bonkers, isn't it?
Did I tell you how I got this in the house? Well, how I was allowed to get it?
Okay.
Because it was owned by David Essex.
Ah, okay.
My wife is the biggest David Essex fan, like when he was younger. Yeah. She said he's still got a twinkle in his eye, but he looks about 95.
Yeah, he looks like.
He looks like Peter Favourite in a weird way, doesn't he?
Well, if anyone's seen Lord of the Rings and Bilbo's character as when he's left Elrond, he looks like David Essex does now, I think.
I think you're right.
But anyway, they could be separate. David Holm and David Essex could be the same person. It could be his that's his
I think that CS80's been repurposed in a much better home.
Well, it was Jeff Wayne. So David Essex gave it to Jeff Wayne. Check that out. That's
Wow.
That's a good mate for you, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
Jeff Wayne used it on War of the Worlds. We reckon it was toured for a little bit. Kent reckons it's probably had about 30 hours of use in total. Wow. And then it was obviously, I think it was dropped out of a trunk, and then it was just put in storage for years. So I have to say a big thank you to Kent, because he really did. He's worked like 14-hour days on this for about a week and a half, just so I can have it before Christmas.
Ah, so you're going to be playing. Bow, 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 bow. You're going to have to play Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas Time on it next week, Dave. So you get your delay set up. I'll do the sleigh bells.
This is my suggestion, Nick. Why don't all the participants have to prepare a Christmas song and perform it on the show next week?
Jesus.
Oh my God.
I don't know. Well, some of us are performers, and some of us are not performers. So
that makes it even better.
Well,
please.
You have to limit the time as well. Like it has to be like an advert. Like you'd get 30-second advert, like on Capital Radio or something. Because if we go on for like a 10-minute prog rock excursion, it might be a bit much for people. So I think we need to make it succinct.
I'll think about it.
Please. We can all pack together.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, everybody. That was Sonic Talk number 342, just about. Thank you very much. I'm going to press the fade to black button and then stop. Bye.